I'm going to ask Alan about age-friendly communities, age-friendly cities, and why Portland is looked at from around the globe as one of the few places that really has taken that challenge and is now challenging others to keep up with Portland on what could become a world model for a community that values aging and also has new ideas. So give us some background on where the age-friendly concept came from.
Yeah, so the origin of the age-friendly push came from the World Health Organization in 2006. I remember very vividly that fall getting called into Margaret's office, and she said, "Hey, I've got this idea. If you want to do this project, I'll let you take your graduate assistantship and run with it." So she gave me this protocol. It was a qualitative focus group protocol for conducting a project to learn about the day-to-day lives of older adults. The WHO had
WHO is what?
The World Health Organization.
Okay.
So the World Health Organization had found, including Portland, 33 cities in 22 countries, to learn about the features and barriers of age friendliness and suggestions for improving communities.
Yeah, so this was a decade ago that they came up with an idea of how a rough draft or a suggestion, but then they spotted or kind of nominated 33 possible sites.
Well, originally there was this call to action based on the rapid aging of our global population and then also the urbanization of our world. And so these dual trends really called for a look at aging in cities. So I don't know the process for aligning the other 32 cities.
Portland got one of the 33 solicitations.
Well, what had happened, to be completely honest, it's you got to know people sometimes. And so the work that Karen Brown Wilson had been doing with Nicaragua was facilitated through the Pan American Health Organization, which is a subsidiary of the World Health Organization.
It's all connecting the dots, isn't it?
Well, they knew we could carry out a program and did research at the Institute. So when they realized there was no U.S. city involved in the project, they contacted Margaret and said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And she said, "What funding is attached?" And they said, "There's no funding attached. Do you want to do this just because?" And Margaret knew it was a great opportunity.
Sure.
So she gave me the protocol. I went
and
to...
who are you to say no to that opportunity?
Well, at first I looked at it and I said, there's no way we're doing this. And it was a short timeline, something from, I think, November of that year until March, where there was the meeting in London to share all of our findings, which is a very short timeline for producing.
And I could just hear Margaret saying to you, "Oh, and by the way, you get no resources."
Well, the resources was letting me as a graduate assistant do this. And I took this, probably shouldn't be something I say, but I took the protocol to the bar. It was like 6, 7 o'clock at night, and I was drinking a beer, and I'm thinking, there's no way we can do this work. Got into my second beer, and I felt confidence. I was like, no, we can do this. We can do this.
And we have to know, what kind of beer was that? It was super beer.
I'm sure it was an IPA of sorts, because I like hoppy beers.
So once you said, I'm going to do this, what was your next step?
So the next step was assembling a group of advisors to direct our research protocols, to understand what our study area or catchment area was. I was pushing for an urban renewal area because of policies and funding opportunities, and the advisory board said nope, because somebody in London or in Belgium is not going to know about the Lentz urban renewal area. How about we study the city of Portland?
The whole city.
The whole city, because it's got a little bit more cachet. And everyone agreed, and I
And here
acquiesced.
you are, a grad student saying, I just wanted to do a neighborhood, and now I've got,
it's a policy
Just
thing
a
for
second,
me.
I want to take your blood pressure.
I know.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, so we got to the point where it was time to collect data, and immediately turned to our community partners. Talked to Elders in Action, AARP, to community centers like the Hollywood Senior Center, some other groups that we were really already affiliated with, and we said, how can you help us in getting the word out? Who can we approach to get into these focus groups? And the focus groups were with older adults, both a younger group from a low-income community, and that young group was up to the age of 74. And then an older group, which was 75 plus, and then there were both low-income and then middle to upper-income groups. Then caregivers, and then service providers in the public, private, and voluntary sector. So we had 8 groups in total, focus groups where we asked us the same question to everyone. We said, what's the barrier to age friendliness with respect to, and then there were 8 domains that we focused on.
So from your lens, what's the barrier? From your lens, what's the barrier?
Yes.
Then you had the information given from those who were actually living it on the table, and then that's when you had to come to conclusions.
Yeah, so there were barriers, there were features of age friendliness.
Features, okay.
Yeah. So one barrier that came out was the lack of affordable and accessible housing in Portland. A feature of age friendliness was the green and natural features of our city, which was really obvious to those of us who've lived here, to have a park at the waterfront, to have a collection of parks and now greenways throughout the city. But we also asked for suggestions. I said, what can we do to improve this area? And one of the great examples, I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, she said, every time a new person moves into my apartment complex, I give them one free transit ticket. And I say, get on this bus and ride it from front to end.
Really?
And learn what services are there, learn where you can go, and learn what you can access.
The sooner the better, right away.
Yeah, absolutely. And you become familiar with mobility options, you become familiar with destinations, and you become more comfortable with the mode of transportation, which is quite often a big barrier to folks. So we've shared that finding with a lot of people. It's gotten a lot of press over the years.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we got all of these data assembled in a qualitative format and started analyzing it to look for major features and barriers, to look for trends that existed.
Look for surprises on both sides of the equation.
Absolutely. I remember it because it was such a short timeline. I was working on this project, and somebody I was living with at the time came downstairs and said, "Who are you talking to? It's like 2 in the morning." I said, "I'm just talking to the person who is talking about this comment because I don't agree with them." But it was a tiring time, and I was thinking, no, I don't agree with this. But that's what qualitative research is about, is having your ideas challenged and coming up with new thoughts. And for me, somebody who is interested in the built and physical environments, urban environments, I learned a whole lot about the social and service environments. So the original age-friendly domains could be broken very cleanly into physical environments, social environments, and service environments. The physical environments being housing, transportation, outdoor spaces and buildings. Social being respect and social inclusion, civic participation and volunteerism, social participation. And then you've got the service environments, which are mostly health and community services, and then communication issues. And the work that we've done here in Portland, we were talking about this earlier, has kind of expanded those in some ways. So those 8 original domains, we've decided we needed to pull a couple of those apart. So in particular, civic engagement and employment became civic engagement or civic participation and volunteerism, and then employment and the economy.
So as the 8 factors?
Domains.
Domains is set into place. It's not in cement. You're saying, wait a minute, this is a robust area and needs to be separated. And so the 2 that it became stand on their own, but they're still linked to this growing and evolving model.
Of age-friendly, yeah. And age-friendly communities is such, I mean, if you were to boil it down to what it is that we're trying to achieve, quality of life and well-being for people of all ages and abilities.
That sums it up. And when you have that agelessness, so that we don't look at a birth date to decide whether a person is going to be thriving, that it changes the entire outlook. Where does it stand right now as far as the age-friendly city designation? Or I know that a year ago there was almost a celebration. Tell us about that.
So the original project with the 2006-2007 project was a research project. So we produced a report and sent it over to the WHO. Then we produced a community report, a summary of findings that was supposed to be accessible for community members, and disseminated that information. We really shared as much as we could, both locally, internationally actually. We were at conferences all over the place. But in 2010, the WHO had such a clamoring for more opportunity to get involved that they created a global network of age-friendly cities and communities. And as part of that, you could apply to become a member. So we had to agree to a couple of things. And at the time, Sam Adams was our mayor. So we talked with his office and said, we want to apply to become a member, but it requires both a commitment from the city, involvement of older adults, It really is important that you have a baseline study, but we've conducted that already,
Mm-hmm.
and then to build an action plan for an age-friendly
So
Portland.
they can't just talk about, they have to have planning as to what we're going to actually do.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and what was the response from the city?
The city was fine with that. They didn't put any resources forward, but
Right.
they allowed us to be the points of contact and for them to be the sponsoring organization. So the city of Portland with Sam and Margaret Neal were the kind of team that put the application forward. I'd like to note, though, that last year, Multnomah County applied to join the network as well. So now we've got an advisory council that is the Age-Friendly Portland and Multnomah County Advisory Council. Multnomah County is in the process of collecting information to do their baseline assessment and then to develop their action plan next year or in the next year.
And these are still, through the Institute on Aging, is still the...
We see ourselves as, we operate as the backbone organization for a collective impact project.
Backbone organization. That's excellent. Keep going.
Well, so the backbone organization assembles, coordinates the activities of these initiatives, essentially. And a collective impact project has a goal that's in front of them. And with respect to Portland and Multnomah County, it's to become more age-friendly. Pretty simple goal. But we're able to gather folks from the county, from the city, from nonprofit, older adults themselves to move toward those ends of becoming age-friendly through various projects. And so right now, as it stands, we have 5 committees that are doing work. Civic engagement,
Okay.
housing, transportation, what would be health or health services at this component, and then economic development and employment. So we have an active committee that moves all of these issues forward. They revise the action plans as are necessary.
Okay.
They work on projects like last year. Bill Thomas, Dr. Bill
right.
Thomas was in town, and he had this big tour that he was doing, and we helped in kind of promoting this, but also to raise awareness here that civic engagement, older adults mattered, and that there were opportunities to get engaged in your community, to work on intergenerational projects, and to try and lift the bar with respect to age-friendly in our community.
That's wonderful. And when his Second Wind tour came in, it really opened a lot of people's eyes to the age-friendly city
Right.
that Portland really is. And I know comparing Portland to the other 24 cities on his tour, Bill still says that there was an electricity in Portland that he didn't see in other cities. And part of it's because these ideas like the age-friendly city didn't pop up last week. It was a
Right.
lot of hard work. You know, instant success takes about 7 years, and that's what I see happening with
Yeah.
you.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, and the future of where Portland is going to go is going to be our final segment. So let's take a brain break and
Okay.
we'll come back.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot.